And welcome back to Survivor Hot Takes. It's me, Coach Drew, aka also a Blurred. We are talking about David versus Goliath. That phrase, of course, being spoken by Davey from David versus Goliath. We are joined by Emily once again. Emily, how are you?
Oh, just thriving. How are you today?
Oh,
Killing
I'm doing COVID and all that.
it?
And Ross, who just recently rewatched David versus Goliath. Ross, Survivor hot take. What is your
Okay.
Survivor hot take?
All right. I'm
One
just
for
gonna
David Goliath,
spitball.
one for just in general.
All right. In general, I'm just gonna throw a few out. You catch on something if you like it. Hands on a Hard Idol overrated. Cambodia top 3 season. Blood versus Water terrible twist. Final 3 over Final 2. And that being a part of Survivor community kind of ruined Survivor.
Ooh. I think it also depends with that last one. Like what Survivor community that you're on. Because I actually totally agree with you. I'm on this Facebook group and everyone is so mean and they're still like hanging on to the Xander thing. And I'm like, homies, you gotta chill.
Dude, they started a GoFundMe for the guy.
Yeah, and then I think that the girl messed it up, didn't she? Like she didn't put in the right wording or
Oh
something.
my gosh.
And then
Survivor
they
Reddit is
give her all the
probably
money
the
back.
word.
Yeah.
So I will agree with some of those. Cambodia is a top 2 season for me, so like we're on the same page there.
Okay.
As far as Final 3, not Final 2, I think it honestly depends on the season for me. Blood versus Water being a horrible, or no, you said a bad twist.
I hate it.
Oh,
Why do you
okay.
hate it? Ross, tell me everything.
I don't like the family. I don't like the family dynamics in the game.
But
make
They're
you cry?
boring.
It doesn't. You don't. When Jeff says, "Oh, you voted out your mom," blah blah blah, cry.
Sierra
cry,
voted out her
audience.
whole mom, and that didn't make you sob on the floor
No.
like it made me sob?
No, I feel like
Ross.
It didn't make me sob. Yeah,
Dead
family
to
business
me.
make me sob more than Blood versus Water seasons.
Oh, that one
and
got
then-
me right in the feels.
And Hand on a Hard Idol, or it's Hand on a Hard Idol, right?
Yeah.
Overrated in the way that Borneo is overrated, as far as like, yes, people will always put Borneo, up there, especially the ones that grew up with it. I'm one of those people. Do I think it's overrated? Yeah, of course I do. But it'll always be in my top 10 because of the nostalgia thing. And I think it's the same thing with Hand on Hard Idol, because that's what we first remember about Survivor is that season and that last challenge. But I do agree that, as a non-biased person, they're overrated. I agree. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about David versus Goliath. And Ross, we'll start with you.
Okay.
On this rewatch, did you get more excitement out of it? Was it kind of a slog? Where were you at with this?
So I don't usually tend to rewatch seasons that much. So like for me, it was like, so this is my first time rewatching it. And obviously there were some points like I definitely sound like Tribal's not as exciting because you know who's going. But, like I think that I definitely paid attention more. Like I didn't like it's interesting because I kind of forgot like John and Natalie bonding. Like that was interesting to see. So I think it was pretty. I don't think it went up or down in my rankings though. I think it was like it's still reasonably mid tier. I think it stayed about the same.
We'll get to that. Emily, how about you?
I flew through this time because normally whenever like I rewatch a season, oh my god, sorry, my dog's she wants to be part of the conversation. She feels passionately as well about Survivor culture. But I think whenever I rewatched it, I flew through it so much this time, and I think it's just because I became so like emotionally invested in a lot of the characters. I can't think the casting, especially like with it being a later season, was like chef's kiss, pristine. So for me, I thought that it was still very beautifully executed. It didn't change my rankings. I would say probably still top 5 for me.
Okay, and that's kind of where I want to go with this. So I loved this season the first time I watched it. Then I kind of forgot about it for a bit until the second time I watched it, remembered that I loved it. Then I kind of forgot about it again, and then on this rewatch, so yeah, how do I keep forgetting about this? Thankfully, Netflix put it on there. I think that top to bottom, my opinion, this is probably, besides maybe Kagayan, the best newbie cast post season 20. And, maybe besides like a few exceptions with pre season 20, one of the best newbie casts of all time. I think that
100%.
almost everyone had a character. Everyone got enough screen time. I feel like they kind of gypped Allison a bit in the merge, but and I feel like you can look back on characters that you may have forgotten about. We can talk about Christian, we can talk about Davey or whatever, but like you remember John. You remember John,
Mm-hmm.
Carl. Like there's so many characters that Carl ends up being like the 8th or 9th most memorable person on the season. Gabby is another one where she ends up being like the 8th or 9th most memorable person on
I
the season.
love Gabby. Yeah.
Because we have so many characters. So I guess we'll leave it to open floor. Who were some of the people that you were drawn to when you first watched and this time around?
Well, if we can tell by my name, Christian is king. And you knew like that was the first thing that I ever said whenever you brought me onto this podcast is that my boy Christian deserved better. And the second they bring him back, I'm gonna be just like throwing hands. I'm gonna be so excited. I think honestly, and I came back into this, and Natalie, like I know that like Natalie, she still gets so much heat, but I thoroughly enjoyed her so much, not just because of her first like 1 or 2 episodes that she was on, but like because of how well she handled herself in that final tribal reunion, like brilliantly well composed. She really was able to mouth her concerns so eloquently, and she still handled it with a lot of grace and humor and tact. So she was someone who I actually gripped onto.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like if Christian is king, Natalie's queen. Like that's just how it is. The Natalie
Right.
napalm.
True. Ross, you get me.
Both Natalie's on Survivor are queens, but besides Natalie,
I actually paid more attention to Alec this time. I forgot he was a major player. Like I kind of forgot.
Yeah. He was
like,
actually he was the like Achilles heel of the Goliath tribe for a long time. Like he was so shifty and like, but that actually really that helped to kind of blend and merge both of those tribes together in a lot more of a graceful way,
Yeah, and I feel like we kind of, and I'm going to keep going back to this because it's so amazing to think about. But Alec falls through the cracks of people that we remember from this season, and I think that the more time moves on, like I'm not going to sit here and say Kagayan's a bad season because that's just not true. But I will say that if people continue to watch David versus Goliath at the length and amount of time they spent watching Kagayan, they might start putting those in the same category. And I think the problem is, and once again, this is not a knock on the winner because I like the winner. He's fine. I think because Nick Wilson isn't as memorable as Tony, I think that's what ultimately always keeps David versus Goliath below Kagayan.
He wasn't as flashy. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that he played a great game and he won, the right way. But I think because he wasn't building spy shacks, and making llama noises and doing all this stuff that Tony did, that people tend to always have David versus based on, and it's not a knock on Nick as much as he's just, like you said, he's just not as flashy of a character.
And the way that they edited him too, I think also didn't really speak a lot to his win. Like to me, he was very much kind of like I don't even want to say a diamond in the rough. He just like he played like a very low key game for such a long time. And then the first real memories that I had of him, and the ones that stuck with me, at least like near the ending, was whenever he was throwing temper tantrums because he wasn't on the right side of the boat. And it was like multiple times that he wasn't on the right side, which also speaks to how lame his social game was. Like he thought it was such a good game, but honestly, to me, I disagree.
Yeah, honestly, the one thing I remembered about Nick was that he almost got voted out first. That's the first things I remember about him.
That's the craziest thing is that if what had happened hadn't happened, we could be sitting here talking about probably Mike White winning. Maybe, we don't know. But I do think, and I think that he got screwed in Winners at War as far as the edit. As far as like him coming off like a creep, because from what it seems, well, it seems like a lot of people have come out and said like, that's not how he actually was out there. They just kind of framed it that way.
Are you saying he wasn't Vampire Donathan?
He was no, not Vampire Jonathan. But I think that train of thought. I think that yes, he did have those moments, especially when Christian left him out of a vote, I believe. And
He
was,
switched it up on
I'm
him.
done with him. I'm done with him. It's like, and then he had some type of weird vendetta against Christian until he left, and it's like, all right, dude, like it's fine. Like, he didn't vote you out. He just didn't go the way that you guys agreed to.
And the reason like that had to happen in order to keep that to get Carl's vote, like to keep it very airtight, because you can't let everyone who's in your OG alliance know, especially whenever you're trying to do a blind side to help keep the control in the dominant group. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Lame.
So another character. Oh, I guess we can start talking about the characters. I know you said that. Opinions on Mike White. Opinions on Mike White.
Overrated. Way
Ross,
overrated.
did you know that you're dead to me? I changed my mind.
No, I loved Mike on The Amazing Race 14 and 18, but like not. I don't see it.
What aspects of his game did you find?
I
overrated?
feel like he kind of for the first 2/3 of the game, he's kind of just there. Like I think he just pulls up in the end, and it's kind of like that's where he kind of like it's just kind of there until the end, and he puts the gas on. But like,
so you don't think Mike White was robbed?
I do not think Mike White. Well, no one is robbed.
No one's robbed. I don't believe in robbed. Same question. What were your opinions on Mike? Did you recognize him before he came out and said, "Oh, I'm an actor"?
To be honest with you, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, like he designs movies, like, or whatever, you know, he like writes movies. I didn't realize it was School of Freaking Rock. Like, no one told me. And then like, so I was like, oh my God, you know? The first time I watched him, like, I agree with you, Ross. Like at first I was like, you know, like he kind of gives me like a David and a Goliath tribe type of vibe, you know? But then like, whenever he continued to morph, like honestly, the most iconic, top 3 iconic scene ever in Survivor history is him trying, like slowly, like sashaying towards Angelina with a glass of wine, completely wasted. That is my it's so relatable, and to me, I think that I liked seeing how he blended both his David and his Goliath side a lot. You know,
that's one of my favorite Survivor gifts, if anything else, is Mike White drunk, because it's like it's a mood cut by cut of just him making all the faces and then the sachet.
Absolutely. And Kim also brought up a point. We have a comment, and Kim said just being there, you know, in the beginning is a huge strategy play, which I think is a good thing, because you can't really make a lot of big moves at the start, or else that automatically puts a big target on your back. So excellent point, Kim Weaver. You're killing it, and I love you dearly. That's my best friend. Love you.
So moving on from Mike to, we'll go with Davey first, because Davey, we've had on. I really, on a personal level, I really did connect with Davey when, you know, especially, I'm a blurred, it means I'm a black nerd, blah, blah, blah. And he's talking about all the stuff that he's been into that, you know, he wants to, especially at Ponderosa, where he's talking to Carl about how he wants to change the perception of, you know, black people in the game, especially black men in the game. And I think they both didn't fit the regular archetype of the black guy on the show. He had Carl, who was, you know, this truck driver, wears a cowboy hat, and he had Davey the blurred. And he had Natalie as, you know, this, for lack of a better phrase, is ice queen that's also very, you know, strong both physically, strategically, and the social game. She didn't get voted out first on her tribe, which is insane. And who am I missing? Who's Jeremy? Mm-hmm. And then there's Jeremy. And then there's Jeremy. No, I really, especially watching this season over again, it's like, wow, I forgot how much I really loved Davey in this season. I think that, and especially at the reunion, like where he cries, you know, right after he voted out. I loved that. And I think that Davey I think Davey would have a better chance of getting back than Christian. That's a hot take.
I love them both, but in different ways. I think that Christian to me was just like this wonderful, beautiful soul who had like such a brilliant social game, but I think that people caught on to it too quickly, of him just being like the nurturer and like, like the David like protector who just tries to protect with whatever assets that he has, but I mean with Davey, I agree with you. But in to a degree, a piece of it.
Okay.
Because I really love Davey. I think that he was so good at keeping himself so calm, cool, and collected. Like whenever what happened, whenever they like it was just like advantage gate, like they did the idol nullifier and then like and it like completely flipped the game.
Yeah,
and he came back. It's so easy, for someone to be like, like stuck on that Goliath, right? But he didn't do that, right? He was like, okay, like it's not. This is just a game, we made a good play, like let's go. And then in the background, he's like, let's go, So I really enjoyed
John's jacket.
Yeah, he had a great holistic game. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think David's really good. And honestly, like talking about like it's honestly, I think a little bit different from you. I think his main flaw is that he didn't have his relationships with the Goliaths that much because it feels like all the other Davids did.
Very true.
And I think he could have won if he even had just like one or two Goliaths he had in his wing. But I feel like, I mean, it might just be the edit not showing it, but like I feel like the Goliath, like all the other Davids were much
David
closer.
strong for the most part.
Yeah.
Going between which Davids he was working with, but it looked like he was, from what we saw, it looked like he was staying David strong.
Yeah, and it looked like Nick definitely had like Angelina like in her pocket or vice versa, But I mean with Davey, I think that if he was able to build a connection with Kara, because Kara's not someone that people talk about that much, but she was such a good middle person.
Crazy because I think Kara would have won in a certain.
Kara could have won 100%. She had enough of the jury. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, damn.
Heyo.
No, going to Christian. I loved Christian was another one where I loved him from the very beginning. I'm like, oh, this guy, we're doing this because at first it looked like they were trying to do we're just typecasting Cochran every season, but like his character is so different from that archetype that they had tried to do every season since Cochran won. That I'm not the biggest Cochran fan, and I love Christian. I think that he's so different. I think that he was genuine, and my favorite part of the season is the endurance challenge that he beats Alec in.
For 6 hours, right?
Yeah, and you can tell that he, he's trying to win whatever, but you can tell that like this is big for him. And when Alec's like, oh yeah, I need to win this, blah blah blah, and Christian's like, yeah, I know, but I just need to win something. I'm like, oh my god,
that was a defining moment. I think that was the most defining moment for sure in that entire season. Is him being like, I know that you have to win, but like, I'm never gonna get this chance again. And it was just he's just standing Jesus style on the thing. I was like, just kill it.
I don't feel so good. But even other like his relationship with Gabby and Gabby trying to get him out right after the family visit.
Mm-hmm. I have a question about that, but go ahead. But
I already know. I feel like I know where you're going.
I need other people's opinions on this comment. Okay, so Gabby tried to get rid of him after the family visit, which means after like she saw firsthand the relationship with him and his girlfriend, okay, and like how serious they were. Do we think that there's some sort of romantic spark between Gabby and Christian? Y'all don't pick up on that?
No, I think she saw herself in Christian's girlfriend and was like, oh, she even says like, oh, he's kind of like my caretaker, and I think that you can't have a caretaker in Survivor. I think I believe what she said in her confessional about that.
Yeah,
the optics weren't great. And if they did try to edit that episode, that the only reason she tried to turn on him was because
not just
him. But yeah, but they were definitely like, especially on this rewatch, I'm like, wow, they're trying to I never saw them as like a romantic thing, and then that episode, I just felt like they were the way everything was being filmed. It made it look like, oh, she's jealous. Blah blah blah. And it's like, no,
that's true.
Yeah, but it like nothing that we saw before that would make us think that. So why would you do that now? Why would you frame this episode like that when you couldn't say Gabby just wants Christian gone because she sees him as a threat and she's going to take a shot now?
But I'm just saying, okay, I need to get off this, but I'm just saying, like, if my man was on national TV wiping some other woman's tears, like letting her like lay and like him cuddling her in the morning, I know, I understand it's reality TV, but that would rub me the wrong way. That's all I'm saying.
I just think that's who he is. Like Allison comes to him for comfort too at one point too. So I don't know. I just think that's kind of like it's obviously a little weird, but like it's
it's not like the weirdest. I just wanted other people's opinions because it just kind of
sometimes you need friends. Sometimes you need. I mean, they're out there cuddling with each other, and they're some of them are married, but like
true.
You gotta be
and
warm.
for warmth, I get it, but it was just weird to me. It was just weird.
And moving on to Angelina, who I think is a lock as someone that will that will come back. Like I think her above everybody else, Angelina is coming back. Unless she says no. What were your thoughts on Angelina when you first watched? Because mine changed when I first watched, and every other time I've watched since then. So your history of Angelina.
At first, I think I'm probably the same way as what I guess would you be is I think at first I found her a little annoying, but the more you watch her, the more it's just incredible. It's so fun. Like she's like one of the best characters of all time, and obviously, and she does like she's a better player than people give her credit for too. So it's like really interesting.
Definitely should have gotten some votes at the end there. Thoughts on Angelina?
Oh, it's a very, very complex and layered issue with Angelina. So the first time I watched her, I think like I have a very consistent feeling with her, which I mean, I think that like I picked up on a lot more strategies in her gameplay, especially the second and third time watching it around, and just like little pieces that I thought were really interesting, but I think that there was just so much unnecessary theatrics that just like weren't like trying to, the big thing that always comes to mind was whenever she was trying to orchestrate this big blowout, like in front of the jury, that it was not a purposeful like endeavor, like she was like, I'm going to give her a fake idol. And then I'm going to be like, you mean this idol. And it's like, and everyone's going to go, oh, you're the best. Like that's just not how that it's supposed to be intentional and purposeful and actually advantageous. But like initiatives like that make it so completely like unrealistic,
Yeah, I think her
climbing a 100-foot wall. That's funny.
Her awareness, like she was very smart. I love actually, especially my last two times watching. I loved her confessionals. I loved the things that she tried to do. I think the problem that she ran into is the way she went about certain things rubbed people the wrong way. And I think it starts with the Elizabeth vote. Actually, no, it starts earlier than that. It starts with the Natalie vote.
Can I have your jacket?
Can I have your? And then she's sitting there admitting to, oh yeah, Larsa, I the only reason I voted for you is because of this, but like, don't worry, we're good. And then we get to the Elizabeth thing, and she says, hey, Elizabeth, blah blah blah, and it gets blown up. And at that moment, I feel like you probably should vote out Angelina. They don't, everyone unanimously votes out Elizabeth. The game keeps going, and everything that she would do, it'd always be like, oh, but the way she did it, oh my gosh, she wants to make this big move in front of the jury, but she's being very obvious about it, and it's like, okay. And so when you get to the end, I actually liked her final tribal performance, but at that point, everyone's sitting there like, oh my gosh, she's still bringing up the rice. It's like you should have, if she had left the rice alone.
Davey was like, it's not about you.
If she had left the rice alone, I feel like she could have gotten votes. I think that's literally what stopped. Like, I feel like one person could have voted for her. And I think that in a certain, it would have to go pretty far down the jury, but I think at a certain spot, she has a chance of winning. We'll see.
Maybe.
But I remember the first time I watched her, I loved her character, and that was it. Like I was like, how is this person exist? This, that, and the other. But watching it now, it's just like, yeah, I think I love this person. I want her to win, even though I know who wins. And that's the great thing about rewatching these seasons. Any season is you have, like Ross said, you have different perspective. You don't have to watch to figure out who's going to win or root for people. You can actually watch the edit and see how people are being portrayed, and see how maybe you don't understand how Nick won the first time, So you watch it again, say, okay, I'm only going to focus on Nick this time,
Mhm.
or watch Angelina to figure out, oh, I thought she did well. Why, why? And
Yeah.
that's why that's why I love rewatching these seasons, especially the good ones like this one. So final thoughts on the season. Ross, we'll start with you.
Like I said, I think it's pretty solid. Like top 15 to 20. I don't have an official ranking. Probably like 15 to 20. It's a very good cast, but like I don't know. It's just like not my personal favorite. Like I think the cast is good. There are a lot of good characters. A lot of people I'd like to see return, but like on a rewatch, like the it's a little drags a little bit at times, especially towards the end. It's just like let's get out Allison every vote.
Yeah, it's true. Poor Allison.
I will ask, what are a couple seasons that might surprise us that you would have above Dave vs. Goliath?
Oh, Millennials versus Gen X is like one of my favorites.
Are you kidding me?
That's one of my favorite seasons.
I hate that season.
That one would probably be the main surprising one. I just I could just list like all the usual heavy hitters like Micronesia, Heroes versus Villains, Cambodia.
Yeah, I mean, I have those above.
Yeah, I'd say Borneo is better. It sounds like you thought that was a little bit of a hot take.
No, Borneo is in my top 10.
Okay, that's right.
It will always be in my top 10 because of the nostalgia thing. Just like Outback will always be in my top 10 because of the nostalgia. Like those are not the seasons I go back and rewatch unless I'm doing a rewatch of all 41. But when I do rewatch them, it's like, wow, I love this. I feel like I'm 9 again.
I would say Samoa might be the good answer to that question.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. You're
no. Brett Klaus is my favorite survivor of all time.
Oh my God.
Right. Who's your favorite? Tyson.
Brett Klauser. My Mike Tyson.
Are you? Oh my God.
CGI Brett, the GOAT, never lost. CGI Brett. And what final thoughts on the season?
I don't know. Like I don't think that too much honestly changed because I think this is one of my seasons that I always come back to. I really, really love this season just because of like the very David versus Goliath is such a cool concept because there's a little bit of David and a little bit of Goliath in all of us, And I like seeing how that levels and how it kind of comes to play, especially in situations where we don't know if our strengths are going to be our weaknesses or if our weaknesses are going to be our strengths, So to me, it is always going to stay in like the top 5. Honestly, I love this season.
It's top 10 for me. I don't have Millennials versus Gen X above it, even though, as I always have to say, my Survivor crush is on that season. But that's the only reason it like stays afloat in the top 15.
Can't stand you.
I love David vs. Goliath. I'm so glad that they picked. I think that's the first Newbie season that they Kageyama was the first Newbie season they put on Netflix. It's the second Newbie season they put on Netflix, which I think is a testament to the game because up to this point it's been Kageyama, Heroes versus Villains, Micronesia, and David versus Goliath. 3 of those seasons everyone puts in their top 5 for the most part, and I think that David versus Goliath, as time progresses, will continue to move up a lot of people's lists. Ross, hopefully too. Before we go, Ross, first of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ross.
I've been trying to get this going for quite a while now, and I'm glad that we could actually get it done. I think this was great. I look forward to having you back at any point.
Have me anytime.
I'll see you on campus. And I don't even know how to do this.
It's so dramatic.
Huh?
So dramatic.
After much time, after about a year, which when I first hopped on Reality Pop, I told everyone that's involved with it, like, hey, I'm sticking with you no matter what craziness occurs, and thankfully there hasn't been much craziness. We hit our subscriber mark for the year. We end up getting monetized and all that. But I always wanted a consistent co-host, and I asked Emily the other day if she would give me the honor of being the official co-host of the show from here on out, and she said yes.
I did. I said yes.
But what this means is nothing's going to change. We would just do 2 people, and we would still have a guest on every week. It would just be a revolving door of guests. Some of the people that I've had on in the past, a lot of people I've had on in the past. Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think we can do great
Sure.
things. I'm not gonna cry. Don't worry. But
Aw.
my goodness, stop.
Well, I'm excited that you're
hold
gonna.
on. The crush is Hannah Shapiro. That's it's Hannah Shapiro.
He says it like every episode.
Till I die, that woman is gorgeous, and I will meet her one day.
One day.
Thank you all so much, everyone that's tuned in tonight. I am really looking forward to what the show is going to produce moving forward. Our show, not Survivor. We already know what we're going to get out of that. Thank you so much for the support from everyone. Thank you for everyone in the chat. And we will see you all on the other side.